Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rosales Media for Change podcast, where we help high school and college students explore exciting careers, uncovering new opportunities, and get real world insights from industry experts. Today, we've got a fascinating episode lined up for you. Our guest is Robert Howard, co founder and vice president of Eminent Biostats, a company that's at forefront of biostatistics and clinical trials. With over 20 years of experience, Robert has worked with cutting edge biotech companies, helping them design and analyze clinical trials. If you're curious about what it's like to work in the biostatistics field, how Robert went from being an aspiring math teacher to starting his own business in a highly specialized industry, then you're going to want to stick around for this one. First, could you run me down how you got into kind of the pharmaceutical industry and what was so intriguing of it in the beginning for you?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. So my path that took me there is was a surprise to me, to be honest. I I went into college with the idea of I was pretty good at math, and I went into college with the idea of being a math teacher. And so I started to take just the really minimum requirements for math, but really focused on education. But some of the classes weren't offered right away, and so I kind of needed to pivot, and it was going to take me longer to graduate. So my sister actually, she's like, "You've always been really good at math. Why don't you just study math? Just do math and then get a credential." So it was a really simple kind of question, but one that really was fundamentally changed my path. So I started to study math, and it was it's a different type of math. It was theoretical. It was more computational. It was different than stuff I would have be teaching in high school. And so I thought, well, what else could I do with a math degree now that I have one? I took a credential class. I didn't really care for it, and I thought, let's try to apply this. And um, I stumbled across a data analyst position, and I applied. And among other things, there were a lot of no's along the way, but this was one that brought me in for an interview and decided to bring me on and offer me the job.
God, that's
So, kind of by luck, and in fact, no one really grows up and says, "Oh, I want to analyze data for a pharmaceutical company."
right.
I didn't even realize that was, part of the industry and things that, people did. So, it kind of was just being open to uh, what was out there, and that was something that stuck. And after a slow go at it. I think it took me a few months to think, oh gosh, like what did I do? Like, is this really for me? I don't know. To stick with it, and ultimately, it was the right fit for me, and I really excelled and grew in that position.
Got it. That's really cool. And what I was wondering a lot, and because I remember talking to you a few weeks back, and you were telling me about the different tests that you did with, like, I believe it was rats too, with like different substances. And was that something that kind of intrigued you into doing clinical studies, or was that just kind of part of it that you kind of found
Oh,
throughout?
so did I share with you when I was in fourth grade about doing a cat, like my experiment with a cat? Because I don't
I don't
test
think
on
so.
on animals. But in fourth grade, I did like a science project where um, I had to do a hypothesis, and I said that my cat, was gonna enjoy the more expensive cat food. And of course, she didn't. She liked the cheaper stuff, which was, I thought I failed the assignment. But I learned something, right? And it wasn't about getting the hypothesis correct. It was about the scientific experiment. So in my job, we analyze the results of experiments that are performed on, actually they're performed on humans. So I don't do any of the rat preclinical work, but these are human subjects that are willing participants to test out. They're sick. They have some sort of disorder or a problem or a chronic illness, and so they undergo this experimental treatment for. It's kind of like the expensive cat food versus the cheap cat food, and kind of what it's the the experiments are conducted, and we do the statistical comparison against that. So I'm not sure if I really answered your question, but
No, yeah.
I think as a youngster, um, uh, those some of those seeds were planted, that I didn't really realize that that experiment and that, I don't conduct the experiments now. I'm analyzing them, but that idea of of yeah, analyzing the results of what could be done. So at fourth grade, that did sink in at a young age.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so I was reading from your company how you then started your own, um, well, Eminent Biostats, and I was reading a little bit about it and how you focus mainly on being sort of a smaller company and kind of being more having tailored solutions for any clients that you have.
Yeah.
And was that on purpose that you wanted to create more tailored solutions coming from a bigger company, or was that something that you just kind of figured out with your partners throughout kind of building that company?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. So, I the industry here in San Diego is pretty small, but there are you hear big pharmaceutical companies. Maybe you've heard Pfizer or Moderna or Merck. These aren't the types of companies that they're so big that they have kind of their own infrastructure and everything. So it's just from the experience that I had working in the industry of kind of really realizing and paying attention and taking notice of the types of clients that there can be. And part of why I started my business with my partners is we really wanted our own autonomy. Being our own bosses comes with um, we get to decide how much we want to work. We get to decide the types of clients and projects that we want to take on. We get to take on the risks as well, um, which we want to be smart and we want to have a successful business, so that the employees that we hire are taken good care of. Um, but for sure, not growing it too big to the point of we kind of lose some of that was important to us. In-N-Out. If you go to In-N-Out, they have the double double, the cheeseburger. Of course, they have sort of off menu things that we all kind of know about, but
Yeah.
basically it's burgers, cheese, bread, fries, like whatever things that you can do with that, right? And they do that really well. And so being small and being focused on those, of course, we're not doing burger stuff. We're doing biostatistics, right? But kind of not getting outside of the, when you go to a restaurant and they have pizza and they have Chinese food and they have burgers, well, like I don't know what are they doing well. They all can't really excel in those different flavors and those different things. So keeping it small is also intentional to uh, really excel in the product, the service that we are providing to our clients.
That's really interesting. And I really like that how you described it as like In-N-Out and how like a lot of fast food chains, they kind of have their main menu
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
don't expand from that. Um,
right.
and I'm really curious. So I find it fascinating how first you started in the pharmaceutical industry, like I mentioned, and then went into being more of an entrepreneur. And what was that season like for you when you started building that company with your partners? Was that was it harder to kind of leave aside your main work to chase entrepreneurship? Because I imagine there must be a lot of work that went into that. And that must have been a season for you where you had to really dial in and focus more on your entrepreneurial side. So how was that
Yeah,
for you and like what you had to learn through that?
yeah. So I actually have two businesses. So I was working, and it's an important part of my story. I was working for a pharmaceutical company, and uh, it was a smaller scale company, and here in San Diego. And at one point, they decided they were going to move their offices up to San Francisco. And so I'm a San Diego native. I didn't really, this wasn't a long-term company for me. Um, and I made the choice to, I made the informed choice to stay in San Diego and leave the company. And as a result, because I didn't move with them, they were generous and gave me a severance package, which means basically I had about 6 months of salary without work. Um, which is really really generous and provided me obviously I didn't have a job, but I didn't wasn't immediately on dire straits, kind of needing to I had time to put thought and intention and effort into creating my own business. So and that's also where kind of that autonomy comes from that I was talking about, where this idea of like working for a company. Oh my gosh, they just decided they're going to move. Now, that would have upended my life, moved me up to San Francisco. Cost of living would have been more expensive at the time. Um, and I was kind of at their mercy, right? For whether they were going to let me off, let me go, or and so creating my own business was part of that. And that window of time, to speak to your question, really was this period of time of I was knew I was leaving, and I knew I had this cushion, this 6 month cushion, and so really lucky in a lot of ways, to be able to be intentional and build my own business, try to get clients, let the people who were also not moving to know that I was doing my own business. And so that was in 2007. And I continued to do that for some time and still operate that business on my own. But then in 2019 is when I formed a partnership with my two business partners, and we formed Emanate Biostats, which is the one you've been referring to. And in the beginning, that was also a risk. It was just the three of us, and for a good part of a year, where we were working to build the clientele, to let people know that we were starting this company, to do a lot of business development. And Miguel, it was in the backdrop of the pandemic. So just as we started in late 2019, the three of us, and then by early 2020, we were trying to figure out, like the rest of the world, what was happening with how businesses were going to be operating and what we're going to be doing and all that. So it created an additional variable that was more complex than any of us could have imagined. But in some ways, it really brought us together to focus on how we were going to operate virtually, how we were going to eventually bring on hire. By October 2020, we brought on two additional employees. So that first year really, though, was a lot of collaboration to create a vision and sacrifice, also, working a lot just to get whatever projects we did get. It was the three of us that were just doing it, so it was an intentional time of growth. Yeah.
But I really like your answer on that.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And I'm curious,
Good.
so you mentioned that it was the three of you like working on the company. And so I guess part of that, like you mentioned, you were the guys who were working and actually doing all the studies. And during that, what was the process for you, I guess, as a team to get clients? Or was there any focus on that? Or was it pretty easy for them to come to you and you focus more on more of like the trials and studies? Or how
Yeah.
did that go?
Yeah, so my business partners, I knew one of them from my first day in the industry when I first started working in 2001, and he and I had become friends and we kept in touch. He knew I had started my own business as well, um, and because of that, and again, the industry here in San Diego is pretty small, and so it is kind of a who you know situation, and building a reputation and letting our work speak for itself. So that was an important part, and also why I knew collaborating with them was going to be a success, or my hope was to be a success because of the reputation we all had built. Now, I told you about my other business, and um, it's a smaller business. It's just me. It's just me. So it's not a larger scale. We don't really compete. And if you'll allow me to do another food analogy, um, I run a taco shop. My own business is called Veridical Solutions, and I run a little taco shop. It's not a taco shop. I don't sell tacos. I My service are my analysis services, but it's kind of a la carte. It's kind of like I have regulars that come to my taco shop and stand in line and ask for their analysis, right? So I have regular clients or contracts that I set up. And so then they'll stop by and they'll order what they need for the week or for the month or for the next few months of what the types of analyses that they'll need. Um, with Emanate Biostats, it's a larger scale offering kind of like catering. So it's kind of more of a larger scale where, you know what, we're going to charge you this much for your all of the food that we're going to provide for all these people. It's kind of like that. That's the algorithm the analogy I can uh, try to explain. And so because of that, my work at Veridical really leveraged itself to take some of those taco shop people who were in line for my taco shop and say, hey, did you know that I've got this other company here now that is could offer you a larger scale set of services. And then coupled with the fact of the powerhouse of our names and the business, the reputation that we have garnered here in the San Diego area was really created a successful environment for that first year to really get our name out there and our branding and our website and our documents that were we call them standard operating procedures. How we are going to be performing the work. Um, so uh, yeah, and that's how that first year kind of went with getting business.
Yeah, that's really cool how you
Yeah,
use both companies and then send some
yeah,
clients over.
yeah.
And I think so steering towards kind of the beginning of, like you said, so you studied math, more towards math in college. And do you have any regrets on what you studied, or do you think there's anything that would have been beneficial for you to learn in college that would have helped you get to say where you are now a lot faster or a lot more efficient?
Um, I'm gonna answer a different way that you might not expect. Um, I regret, there's not a lot in my life I regret. I think that um, choices that I've made are for better or for worse actually form and shape who I am today. And so kind of uh rejecting, something that I did or something I should have done, maybe it's taking away a part of who I am. Not to say I can learn from my mistakes. And so um so because of that, I took 5 years because I kind of didn't really know what I was doing. Did that slow me down a little bit? Could I have been a little bit more decisive? Maybe I would have gone a different direction, and but the one thing, and I didn't study business, so I don't have, an actual, I don't have a business degree. I just lean on my own personal experience as um, somebody who, when I was younger, I did magic shows. I used to tutor people. I just had this entrepreneurial spirit that kind of just lent itself well to merging these two things together. But I regret not doing a study abroad program. So kind of unrelated to math or business or anything, but I now I now like to travel a lot. I travel as much as I can. I'm going to Guatemala next month,
Cool.
and been to 5 continents now. But I didn't immerse myself into a culture and a language. My mom's an immigrant. She came over to this country originally from Italy. Still have cousins and an uncle over there. Um, My husband is a child of immigrants as well. Is from Mexico, and so just missing an opportunity to learn another language, to broaden my worldview. I do that now as an adult, but at that age, I just didn't, and I think it would have changed or formed me in some other way too. So that's one regret that I have. Yeah.
And I'm just curious, where would you have wanted to travel or do at a study abroad program? And like specifically for like study what abroad?
Um, Yeah, probably somewhere in Italy. I speak a little bit of Italian, not much. Just kind of my grandfather didn't speak any English. My grandmother was broken English, so I kind of learned a little bit from there. But I love the culture. We grew up with a lot of different Italian, cultures around the holidays and food, and so just to kind of feel like a little bit more connected with that with that part. My dad was American, so I didn't have it was just really from my mom's side. Um, and so yeah, probably Italy to mostly really to be able to communicate with my grandfather, to immerse myself in the language. But I also studied Spanish in high school, and so there was a little bit of a foundation. I was really involved with the international students. There used to be foreign exchange student programs where people would come from different countries, and I made really great friends with Annabelle from Puebla, Mexico, and I still keep in touch with her now. And actually saw her just last year when I went down there to Mexico City, and she met me there. But there was an opportunity at one of the colleges I was going to go to Cuernavaca. So that would have been an opportunity to immerse myself in the Mexican culture down there in Morelos, and to hone and learn more Spanish. So maybe not so much and this is kind of what maybe I told you, or I've told some of the other students at the Barrio Logan College Institute career fair, is it's soft skills, right? So it's not necessarily the things that I'm learning. Sure, academically, I can read in a book and I can take a test on and I can, learn this material, but it's kind of those other things that we're learning in concert at the same time with working in a group project, applying yourself, studying, realizing what you're really capable of when you perform well on a test and you study, uh, building self-confidence and those sort of things. So going to another country and experiencing another culture, stepping in other people's shoes, and um, uh, seeing their worldview, and their experience can only impact and grow and nourish my who I am, that I could then, share that along with other people in my life.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so you were talking how you want to travel a lot more now and kind of just explore different cultures. And I think so, like looking back at your companies and like you said, so you want to start traveling more, and with that would come, needing more time. So is the future looking for you where you want to hire out from your companies along with your partners and kind of get itself running, or is it something that you are looking to keep doing yourself and kind of working hands-on in it?
Yeah, very good question. So yeah, work-life balance is important. And I don't see myself being anything other than hands-on. I really value my employees, and I really, treat them well. It's kind of like, you eat last, when you you all kind of make sure they're all taken care of. And so but it is at a point where it is, clients. So here's the thing. Nobody's going to Google, I need a statistical programmer. Like, they're really not. That's not how it's going to work. It's about who we know, right? And so the reputation and the name and the brandings have kind of already taken care of itself. It's going to be about, who we've worked with before. They may, hey, do you guys know a great biostats firm or a team? And that's how we're going to, yes, sure. I worked with Emanate Biostats before, and that's how they're going to recommend us. So it is kind of self-perpetuating now, to the point where, it's important to keep up relationships and do some business development. But I really enjoy it. Like I really do love it. So it's not something that I dread or I don't like. My business partners and I are all friends. It's a great collaboration. We're friends with the employees. It's a small group, and so with that though also comes taking some time off. And so, I can, I don't, I'm not, I would love actually to go to Guatemala because they in Antigua is like actually one of these places where they have a really good language study, a language program, immersive, even just 3 months. That would be too hard and too long for me to take that amount of time off. But I can go for a 2 week trip a couple times a year in the spring and then the fall or a summertime, and the world's not going to fall apart. With my business partners and my other client, my other small business, I don't work. I do have my phone. I can respond to emails. I can set expectations, and uh, but again, I don't have enough of an ego to think that, oh, the world's gonna, it's just gonna fall apart if I'm not there and doing anything. No, I need to rest and recuperate as much as I want my employees to unplug and disconnect from work when they're on vacation on their time off. Um, so it's a healthy balance. And of course, I mean, I remain, I try to remain physically fit, so that when I do retire, I can still go out there and enjoy parts of the world and that have yet to go to.
I think that's really cool. And I really liked your answer on, I can really tell that you're passionate about what you do, especially having two companies and just really liking the hands-on. I really, really like that. And so I think we're steering towards a little bit more on entrepreneurship. And that's something that like you mentioned you didn't even study in college or didn't even get a degree for.
Right.
So what kind of helped you learn more about entrepreneurship and then actually running a business? Was it like books that you read or just like hands-on kind of diving into it?
Um, I didn't read any books. I did have a couple mentors, so that was important. So there were people that had done this before, and I leaned on them with some questions, um, and their encouragement. To be honest, was really powerful. Um, as I mentioned, also, I think that there was something when I was younger that was just innate, of this idea of, and I didn't even realize it really until even later, that was a strong foundation or a part of my personality, some of those soft skills, because typically these STEM, that there's a lot more introverted people. And sure, it's a cerebral job, but as some of the other skills that I have, this sort of soft skills that kind of really lend itself well to just to doing business development and building relationships. Um, and so I would say mentors, and having a team of people that uh, believed me and supported me, and if it was going to go one way or the other way, I would be I'd be all right. Yeah,
I really like your answer. And
yeah,
if someone was interested in biostats or entrepreneurship, what advice would you give to them during their high school and college years?
yeah. Um, things are so different now, and I don't want to sound so cliche as a Gen X person, but we didn't have this type of technology to be able to do this, and so some of the things that I did was would be totally different. like doing magic shows or starting doing tutoring. Um, but I mean, honestly, Miguel, like what you're doing right now is precisely that, right? Like you have a gift and you have a talent, you have the time, you have the resources and means to be able um, to do something like this. And so I just want to encourage you,
Thank you.
with what you're doing as building, kind of a resume, right? Like in a way like that you don't have to be making money right now, but you could be showcasing what your other gifts and talents are. You can learn, you're going to learn. You're going to go to college and you're going to read the books and you're going to take the tests and you're going to get your degree. But it's some of these other side things that really, these extracurricular things that really help flank um, your entire what you have to offer. So when you build your extracurricular activities along with all your studies, you really are going to be flanking both sides here of what all you have to offer as a full human being into the workforce. So I would say hone what skills complement what natural talents you have too, like what your desires are, right? Yeah,
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really,
yeah,
really like that. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I just wanted to spread more on like the info and
yeah,
just people's careers because I really liked even just when meeting you, you were really passionate about what you did and you were just happy to be there. And
yeah,
yeah, I really like that about you, and I really want that for the community and people to be happy about what they do.
yeah.
So thank you so much for
That's great.
answering all my questions.
Yeah,
And yeah, I hope people take away a lot from this. I learned a ton today from you as well. But yeah, it was
awesome, great. My
amazing.
pleasure.